Life had never been gentle to Lytudiep, but it had shaped her into someone that even hardships could not break. She carried warmth in her eyes, resilience in her hands, and a quiet softness in her voice. A softness that only one person truly understood, Lee. Their story did not begin with fireworks or grand promises. It began with exhaustion. Sam was working 2 jobs back then, harvesting fruit at dawn, selling it at the market till noon, and doing cleaning jobs late into the evening. She lived alone in a small room behind an abandoned orchard, where the smell of damp soil followed her everywhere. But she never complained. She needed the money, and more importantly, she needed to hide from the past that had scarred her family. Lee entered her life the way sunrise enters a cold morning, not suddenly, but gently, warming everything it touched. He was steady, patient, and always watching her with eyes full of questions he never dared to ask. He helped her without asking for anything back, fixing her broken fence, carrying heavy baskets for her at the market, bringing tools and materials she never had enough money to buy. Sometimes he would show up quietly with a warm meal and leave it at her doorstep without saying a word. Sam always pretended not to notice, but she did. She noticed everything. One chilly morning after selling fruit at the market, Sam went home to find Lee waiting outside her gate. He stood there awkwardly, dressed in dusty work clothes, holding a sack of cement over his shoulder. "I thought I'd help repair the floor inside," he said, trying to sound casual, though his heartbeat was loud enough for Sam to feel it. Sam smiled, small and shy. "You don't have to." "I know, but I want to," Lee replied softly. From that day on, their lives intertwined not with confessions or promises, but with acts of kindness. They cooked together, worked side by side, shared late-night tea when both were too tired to sleep, and found comfort in each other's presence. They were not lovers yet. They were not even ready to call it a future, but something deeper was growing between them. Quiet, steady, unbreakable. And neither of them knew that life was already preparing a bigger journey, one that would shake them, bind them, and bless them in the most unexpected way. A child named Anna. Life in the small countryside house slowly found its rhythm. It wasn't perfect, far from it. The roof still leaked whenever it rained too hard. The kitchen smelled of smoke every time Sam tried to cook over the old stove, and the narrow hallway creaked loudly at night. But somehow, Sam felt a warmth inside these walls that she had never felt anywhere else. Maybe it was because Anna's soft breathing filled the rooms. Maybe it was because Lee's footsteps always returned, no matter how tired he looked. Every morning, long before the sun rose, Sam woke to feed Anna. She would cradle the baby close, humming softly while Lee prepared warm water, moving carefully so the noise wouldn't wake either of them too much. He wasn't good with babies at first. His hands were too big, his movements awkward, but Lee tried with all his heart, and that effort alone made Sam's eyes sting with emotion. One morning, as Sam changed Anna's little shirt, she noticed Lee outside the window, shoveling soil behind the house. She stepped out, still holding the baby. "Lee, what are you doing out here so early?" she asked softly. Lee looked up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm building a small garden for Anna. When she grows older, she can play here. I want her to have a safe place, a place better than what we had." The sincerity in his voice struck Sam. She gazed at him, this man who once acted cold and distant, now shaping a future with his bare hands. Later that afternoon, as Anna slept peacefully, Sam prepared lunch while Lee fixed the old door that wouldn't close properly. When he finished, He sat beside her at the small wooden table. "You're tired," he said quietly, watching her rubbing her shoulders. "So are you, but we're doing this together, right?" Lee hesitated for a moment, then nodded. His voice lowered, almost trembling. "I don't know how to be a perfect father or partner, Sam, but I want to learn, for Anna, and for you." Something warm blossomed in Sam's chest. She reached across the table and gently took his hand. "We'll learn together." For the first time in a long while, the house felt full of hope, full of healing, full of a family slowly stitching itself together. Outside, the wind brushed through the young plants in Lee's new garden, as if blessing the fragile beginning of their real-life story. Days slowly blended into one another as life settled into a quieter, steadier rhythm for Sam, Lee, and little Anna. Yet beneath that soft calm, something deeper was quietly transforming. Something Sam herself didn't fully recognize until it began to hurt in the sweetest way. Sam had always been the kind of woman who carried responsibilities alone, even when her hands trembled under the weight of them. But now, she wasn't alone. And learning that, accepting that, was its own journey. One morning, Anna woke earlier than usual. Her tiny whimpers drifted through the small rented apartment, the kind that stirred instinct before thought. Sam rushed to the crib, but Lee was already there, leaning over the baby with the gentlest smile Sam had ever seen on him. "Shh, Anna. Daddy's right here," he whispered. Sam froze in the doorway. "Daddy?" He said it so naturally, like he had always been meant to say it, like his heart had been waiting for years to find someone small enough, fragile enough, precious enough to protect. Lee turned, catching Sam's expression. "Come here," he said softly. "She wants her mom." Sam walked toward them slowly, her chest tightening. She took Anna into her arms, but her eyes stayed on Lee. Something inside her wavered, some old fear she couldn't fully name. Fear of losing him, fear of loving him too much, fear of needing someone again after so much heartbreak. Later that afternoon, while Anna slept in a cocoon of soft blankets, Lee found Sam outside, hanging tiny baby clothes on a wire line. "You've been quiet," he said, standing beside her. "I'm just thinking," Sam replied, eyes lowered. He waited. She always thought with her heart first, and her words second. Finally, she sighed. "Lee, what if one day you regret everything? What if you get tired of the responsibility, of me, of all this?" He didn't hesitate. "Sam, I have never been more certain of anything in my life." She shook her head slightly. "You say that now." "No." He stepped closer, lifting her chin gently. "I say it because I lived long enough without a family to understand how rare this is, how rare you are." Sam blinked fast, but tears still slipped down. "I'm scared, Lee." "I know. So let me stay. Let me help you carry that fear." And for the first time, she didn't step back. Time moved differently in the small home Lee built with his own hands. Some days passed in a blur of baby cries, warm meals, and the soft rhythm of everyday life. Other days felt long and heavy, especially when Anna's health wavered or when bills piled on the kitchen table. But through it all, Sam and Lee held on to each other, even when neither had the strength to stand alone. One rainy afternoon, while Anna was sleeping on Sam's chest, Lee stood by the window, staring outside with a troubled expression. His clothes were damp from working in the field, his hands cut from fixing an old wooden gate.
Sam watched him quietly. She knew that look too well. Lee was worried again. About money, about the future, about being enough. "Lee," Sam called softly. He turned, a tired smile touching his lips. "You should rest, Sam. You barely slept last night." "You haven't slept either. Sit with me." He hesitated, but joined her on the edge of the bed. Sam shifted slightly so he could see Anna's tiny face, relaxed and peaceful. "She looks like you when she sleeps," Sam whispered. He chuckled weakly. "I hope she doesn't grow up with my stubbornness." Sam rested her head on his shoulder. "Your stubbornness is what saved us." Those words broke something in him. For weeks, Lee had been carrying the weight of being the father, the protector, the man who must not fail. But in that moment, with Sam leaning on him and Anna breathing softly between them, he finally let himself breathe. "Sam, I'm scared sometimes. I want to give both of you everything, but I don't know if I can." Sam took his hand. "You already have." Her smile, gentle, tired, full of love, washed every doubt from his heart. Sam wasn't with him for money or promises or security. She stayed because he stayed. She loved because he loved. Suddenly, Anna stirred and opened her eyes, big, bright, curious. She gazed up at her parents as if asking to be part of their moment. Lee placed his hand over her tiny chest. "We'll give her a beautiful life, Sam. Maybe not a perfect one, but a life full of love." Sam nodded, eyes glistening. "A real life. Our life." Outside, the rain slowed. The clouds softened. And in the small room filled with warmth and tenderness, a family embraced the imperfect, extraordinary future waiting for them.